Well, this was the question period of all question periods. Justin Trudeau has actually snapped, lost his mind, started yelling obscene things, and gets made fun of by the entire House floor. Welcome back to another video, everybody. Before we get into it, I want to encourage you all to smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't yet already. It really helps grow the channel, as well as I hope you consider turning post notifications on so it adds a layer of insurance for you to actually be notified of upcoming videos. And before we get into the question period highlights of Trudeau just losing his mind, I want to share with you the sticker bundle that is 20% off right now. You get Klaus Schwab, who's been the Dre Dids, the Liberal Cabinet. You got Chrystia Freeland. You got Trudeau on a milk cart and Have You Seen Me? I did not see that coming. Fan favorite. And Speech You Hate does not equal hate speech. All of these stickers are in a bundle wrapped nicely for you down in the description or the pinned comment below. Now let's get into this long video. It's long. You're gonna want to stick it out. There's not much French. It's pretty much all English. And it's pretty much all Pierre Poilievre and Trudeau from today. All right, enjoy the clip. Oral questions. Questions orales. I'm better than the House Speaker, Pierre Poilievre. Here we go.
Our priorities are clear. We're going to axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, and stop the crime. Stop the auto theft that has run rampant under this Prime Minister. He's now throwing a cape over his back, claiming that he's the hero on auto theft, but it's actually tripled in Toronto, and it's up by 100% in Montreal after he brought in catch and release and house arrest for car thieves, and after his incompetence allowed our ports to spin out of control and our cars to be exported to overseas crime and terror networks. Why doesn't he reverse his policies instead of another meeting?
There you go.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, this is a serious situation. Canadians are concerned about
it. Is.
And the Conservative leader just chooses to whip out his empty slogans and continue to blame everyone while we're getting to work. We're pulling together stakeholders and leaders from across the government to look at what more we can do. We've seen successes. CBSA agents have intercepted over 1,600 stolen cars last year in 2023, but there's more to do. We're going to continue to make the steady work and investments necessary to keep Canadians safe and to keep crime down.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
To keep crime down. Crime is way up. Violent crime is up 40% under this Prime Minister. And today he had his ministers hold a big press conference as their solution. And in it, they put out a press release that said, and I quote, "In 2022, approximately 9,600 vehicles were stolen in the Toronto area alone, representing a 300% increase since 2015. End quote. Wow. What happened in 2015? I know, he happened, Mr. Speaker. How can we make him unhappen and stop the crime?
Oh my God! Oh, I was not ready for this.
In 2015, Stephen Harper presented a budget that had slashed funds for policing, slashed funds for...
Watch him fumble his words.
Slash funding for Veterans Affairs Services, and we were there to clean up the mess, to cut taxes for the wealthiest 1%, lower them for the middle class, to support families, to start moving forward on gun control in real ways while the Conservatives cozy up to the American gun lobbies. We've continued to step up and keeping Canadians safe. Let them bring assault weapons back to our streets. We'll keep Canadians safe.
Whoa! I gotta pause it. I gotta give Trudeau credit, man. He didn't have his little speech impediment. He pulled through an entire little speech, and he actually did half decent. What he said is a bunch of bullshit, but good for him for actually standing up and being a bit of a man.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
And now he's gonna get put in his place.
Oh, is he ever losing control of himself? My goodness. Screaming and hollering like that. Mr. Speaker, it's his press release that says that in Toronto, auto thefts are up 300% since he took office. His solution is to hold a summit. He held a summit on food prices. Food prices went up. He held a summit on housing. Housing costs doubled. How much is crime going to rise after all the bigwigs go to his summit?
And there it is. The nail in the coffin.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, the Leader of the Opposition has trouble believing that we would actually include real facts in our press release, something he and the Harper government never did for years.
Let's go.
Speaker, there is a real challenge around auto theft in this country, and our solution is to roll up our sleeves, pull together partners from across the country, and get to solving it. His solution: throw his hands up in the air, blame a raft of political attacks on us, and continue to see that he's not putting forward any real solutions, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member.
That was insane, folks. I need to decompress after that. That was awesome. I want to remind everyone to smash that like button if you haven't yet, because this it ain't over, man. You're gonna want to stick around. They're gonna be going toe to toe again soon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Liberal Member of Parliament for Davenport claims that there is no housing crisis in Toronto. The rest of the Liberal MPs for Toronto would rather fight the City of Toronto than actually deal with the crisis of housing. Here's what frontline workers are saying. Quote, "On the ground, we've seen a man recently arrived from Africa die in an encampment while trying to stay warm." So will the Prime Minister listen to his out-of-touch Liberal MPs or to frontline workers trying to save people's lives?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we have been there for investing in housing across the country, including with hundreds of millions of dollars directly for the City of Toronto to invest
directly back into Liberal pockets.
Housing affordability and fighting homelessness. We know there is lots to do, and we're going to keep doing it, whether it's signing housing accelerator agreements across the country, whether it's introducing a suite of new measures to unlock the construction of 600,000 new apartments, whether it's cracking down on short-term rentals to unlock even more apartments, or introducing a mortgage charter to protect homeowners from the stress of elevated interest rates. We are taking.
Prime Minister needs a summit to find out about the problem of auto theft. We can help him. He is the problem. It was his policies that caused the 300% increase in auto theft in Toronto. He's asked for solutions. Well, we have some of those too. Will the Prime Minister agree to reverse his catch and release bail policy for car thieves, end house arrest for those who steal cars, and put an end to his incompetence at the Port of Montreal, from which so many of our vehicles are being shipped to organized crime and terrorist networks abroad?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, what's interesting about the Leader of the Opposition is he doesn't actually care about auto theft. He cares about making a good political attack on the government because people are facing real challenges.
It's called criticism?
Is solving the challenges. What we are focused on is
he's literally only made it worse.
Today of $121 million to fight auto theft in Ontario. We've been working to bring together stakeholders and leaders across the country to bring forward more positive solutions to build on the 1,600 recovered autos that we prevented from being stolen last year.
I'm going to ask all members once again to please restrain yourselves, to listen to the questions and to listen to the answers. And when you have the floor will be yours. The Honourable Leader of the Official.
Prime Minister has hit Canadian farmers with a carbon tax that drives up food prices at the grocery store. Food prices that are rising again only months after he promised they would come down. I asked him late last year if he would talk to the Medeiros farm about their rising carbon tax bill. They just got their bill for December, and it is $21,000 in carbon taxes alone. I asked now, as I asked back then, how exactly will the Medeiros family pay this bill when it quadruples to over $80,000 a year?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
It's interesting that the Conservative leader is asking the government to help out the Medeiros family farm now, because back in 2014, when the Medeiros fan came to him in government, asked him for some support as they were trying to make investments, trying to continue to move forward, he told them that they needed to stand on their own 2 feet. That's what he told that farm. Mr. Speaker, we are there to support farmers right across the country with $1.5 billion over the past few years in investments, in supports. We're going to continue to be there for farmers as they fight climate change.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Actually, when the Medeiros family asked for me for help, I went to Enbridge and helped them get lower-cost natural gas to power their operation, Mr. Speaker. That's the real story. So instead of reading the disinformation from the kids in short pants over in PMO, why doesn't he deal with the thing that's really hurting that family right now? A $21,000 monthly carbon tax bill that is passed on to the trucker who ships the food
insane.
and the grocer who's...
That's insane, bro.
So once again, how much will Canadians have to pay in higher food prices when he quadruples the carbon tax?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, back in 2014, he told that farm family to stand on their own 2 feet. We, Mr. Speaker, know what is making farmers vulnerable across this country. Do you know what it is, Mr. Speaker? It's climate change. It's the fact that a changing climate causes droughts, floods, and fires, which droughts, floods, and fires end up hurting crops, end up hurting growers. That's why we're stepping up on fighting climate change. Farmers across this country know how important it is to sustain and protect our land. That's exactly what we're doing. That's exactly what we're going to continue to do.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
He mentions drugs. That's another crisis that he has caused, Mr. Speaker. But back to the cost of food, heat, and groceries. This Prime Minister plans to raise the carbon tax again on April 1st. Another hike to the gas, the heat, the grocery bills. Another hit to the Nova Scotia families who can't afford to pay their utility bills. And another hit to working class families while he jets around the world carbon tax free. If he can't have the common sense to axe the tax, will he at least cancel his plan to hike the tax on April 1st?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
You know what the Leader of the Opposition is proposing to cut for Canadians?
He walked right into that, you big dumbass.
Is in place that they're relying on to enable them climate change and support their families. We are going to continue to be there to fight climate change and put more money in the pockets of 8 out of 10 Canadian families. When he talks about cutting climate action, he's also talking about cutting those checks that arrive in families' bank accounts 4 times a year.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
According to the Parliamentary Budget Officer, the average 60% of Canadians are paying more in his carbon tax than they get back in rebates. And now we learn that 40% of Nova Scotia households are struggling to pay their electricity bills. The carbon tax, of course, applies on the share of electricity that is generated through traditional hydrocarbons and other fossil fuels, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister is going to hit Canadians with yet another tax hike on April the 1st. Will he, if he can't summon the common sense to axe the tax, will he at least cap the tax so Canadians can afford to eat?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we are fighting climate change and creating a stronger economy at the same time as we ensure affordability for Canadians. Those carbon rebate checks that go right across the country in areas where the federal price applies help out 8 out of 10 families with more money than they pay in the price on pollution. We will continue to be there to both invest in families, to support them, while the Conservative leader proposes to cut rebate checks to Canadians. We're going to keep doing it while we fight climate change.
We fight climate change. Just totally relentless, eh?
Millions of Gazans rely on UNRWA for food, water, and shelter. People are starving. Children are eating grass just to survive. Yes.
All right, everyone, take this time to smash that like button if you haven't yet. Let's try and get like 1,500 likes or something.
No, children should not pay for this. Why is this Prime Minister fueling this war with Canadian arms?
Why are you talking
children
so
did not commit a crime.
Slowly.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
We are, of course, deeply concerned with the devastating scale of the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. We recognize UNRWA's essential role under dangerous conditions in providing life-saving assistance. So we will work with the agency and other donors to support the investigation into the serious allegations against its staff. But let me be extremely clear.
Oh my God! Let me be clear is a liberal thing to say.
Has not changed in our work with our partners.
Let me be extremely clear.
We're looking at ways to continue to provide additional support to those desperately in need, in addition to the $40 million we just announced yesterday.
The honourable member from Burnaby South.
The Prime Minister knows well that no other group can do this work. That's right. I want to talk about Halifax. Halifax has the highest rate of poverty in Canada. 1 in 5 children lives in poverty. Only once has the Liberal MP for Halifax raised the issue of skyrocketing food prices in this House. How out of touch is that? That's the problem with the Liberals. They pretend that everything is fine if everything's fine with their rich CEO friends. So when will the Prime Minister stop working for Galen Weston and start working for Haligonians?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we are working closely with the Competition Bureau. We're making sure we're passing legislation that strengthens its ability to go after the large grocery chains in this country that are making record profits while Canadians are struggling with food prices. We will work with communities. We will work with individuals. We will work with the Competition Bureau to ensure that that actually happens. We're continuing to be there for Canadians with initiatives like dental care, like increasing the Canada Child Benefit, like cutting child care costs in half across the country. We will continue to be there for people in Halifax and Brighton.
Mr. Speaker, what this Prime Minister has is a pro-Russia energy policy that forces the Europeans to buy their energy from Russia by denying Canadians the ability to sell our own. He prefers military equipment for Putin instead of paychecks for Canadians. He does want to export detonators and turbines to Putin so he can pump his gas and power his landmines. Why doesn't he stop using Ukraine as a political tool and actually do something to stand up and help win the war?
Whoa, dude!
The Right Honourable Prime Minister. The Right Honourable Prime Minister from the top, please.
Volodymyr Zelensky came to this House and asked all of us to support Ukraine in its fight for freedom and its economic independence. Volodymyr Zelensky asked us to support a renegotiation and a renewal of the Canada-Ukraine free trade deal. In this House, everyone except Conservative MPs stood up to support Volodymyr Zelensky.
The Prime Minister has 10 seconds left on the clock. But I'm going to ask all members, I'm going to ask in particular the member from Dufferin-Caledon, please, to allow the answer to be heard so that, because it's not only important for all of us and for Canadians to hear that, but it's important for members, especially members who require translation. They can't hear over the heckling. So let us make sure that we have an opportunity to hear clearly the questions and the answers. The Honourable Prime Minister, 10 seconds left on the clock.
Mr. Speaker, Ukrainian Canadians from across the prairies are begging their MPs to please stand up for Ukraine. Will they do that, Mr. Speaker, in the upcoming Ukraine free trade vote?
Dude, the Conservatives support Ukraine more than the Liberals. What part of that isn't clear? Let me be extremely, very, very clear.
Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, on this, like everything else, he is a fake and he is a phony. Let's go for the facts. Fake and he's a phony.
Woo! Wow. Let's go. Oh! Stop muting the mic! Fucking hell, man. Dude, we need a petition so he stops muting the mic. This is our taxpayers' money going to fund this shit.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
What a load of crap.
Well-experienced man in Parliament. I would caution him to avoid using language like that could cause disruption and
Shut the fuck up.
The Honourable Member from the top, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
His carbon tax deal does not distract from the fact that he announced $400 million in surface-to-air equipment that he has still not delivered. Right. What he did deliver is detonators to Putin so that Putin could put them in landmines and blow up Ukrainians. He delivered a turbine that was refurbished in Montreal so that Putin could put it in his pipelines and pump gas and make money off Europe that we should be bringing home to this country. Why is it that he always stands up for the dirty dictators like Putin instead of the paychecks for our people?
There you go.
Once again, I would caution all members to be very careful about how they impugn motivations to other members.
Shut the fuck up, speakers.
And this was the subject of a declaration which the chair had made back in October, and I encourage all members to please refer to it again to making sure that we keep on the right side of parliamentary language. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, when the Leader of the Opposition refers to Ukraine as some faraway foreign land, when he continues to insist that all of his MPs, including Ukrainian Canadian MPs, vote against a free trade agreement that Volodymyr Zelensky is asking us to vote for to support Ukraine, he can't hide behind the kind of misinformation and disinformation that he regularly peddles in. It's very simple, Mr. Speaker. Will the members of the Conservative...
So I'm going to remind all members again. I know it's Wednesday, and I know
it's Wednesday, my dudes.
I know that all members, but as I had just...
You look like the least intimidating person ever.
As to the same degree that I just made a statement to the to a member.
He's got lines above his eyebrows for how much he frowns. You could you can see it right there.
I would invite all members to please listen to their whips for a second, and I will. Can
you have to sit down when you're up? Thank you.
It's important.
I'm glad he didn't mute the mic this time.
I invite all members, please, to be very careful about impugning motivations or associating members with governments that we do find in this House to be disreputable, if not odious. So I'm just looking for all of us to make sure that we stay on the right, that we all wait and do our turn. And I will ask the honourable member from South Shore St. Margaret's to please come and speak to me at the chair, and we'll have an opportunity to discuss this. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, he could not point to a single thing that I said that was untrue, because it is all factual. It is a fact that we already have an excellent trade agreement with Ukraine, that it does not include a carbon tax, and that there is no need for a carbon tax to be in any free trade agreement. In fact, there never has been a need for a carbon tax in any other free trade agreement in the history. But while he remembered a carbon tax, he forgot to include in the deal a ban on him sending detonators and turbines over to Putin. Why is it that he's so determined to allow Putin to acquire weapons and money rather than having a real free trade deal with Ukraine?
Wham bam, thank you, Sam.
The right honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the Leader of the official opposition has an opportunity to correct the record from him having called Ukraine a faraway foreign land by allowing his Ukrainian Canadian MPs, at the very least, to vote in favor of the renewal of the Canada-Ukraine Free Trade Agreement coming up for a vote in the coming days. It is an opportunity for those who choose to stand with Ukraine to stand with Ukraine in this House and be counted. Why is he muzzling his Ukrainian-Canadian MPs?
That's going to backfire in about 5 seconds.
Mr. Speaker, we are 100% united in our support of Ukraine and in our opposition to the carbon tax. 100%. This is what he does. He divides. He wants to distract from the fact that he doubled housing costs, caused 30 homeless encampments in Halifax, caused shootings to go up by 100%, drug overdoses up by 300%. It is no wonder that he would want to use fear and falsehoods to distract from his many failures, and that is exactly what he is doing. Why won't he finally unite this country instead of trying to divide and conquer?
Let's go, everybody!
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, this House used to be united in its support of Ukraine and its support of Volodymyr Zelensky. And yet now we see.
I'm going to please ask the Prime Minister to start up again. I'm going to ask all members, please, to listen to the response without interruption so that we can have an orderly House. Prime Minister from the top.
Mr. Speaker, this House used to be united in its unequivocal support for Ukraine, and then the Leader of the Opposition disparagingly referred to Ukraine as a faraway foreign land, something for which he has not yet apologized, and has demanded that all his MPs, including Prairie MPs who have strong Ukrainian-Canadian populations, vote against a free trade deal that Volodymyr Zelensky has deliberately and directly asked Canadians to support. When will he stand up for Ukraine?
Years, this Prime Minister is not worth the cost of housing, which has doubled since he promised to lower it. But there is good news. Rent is down for the 8th consecutive month.
That's good.
In the United States. Oh, right. It has more than under this.
I can't believe I fell for that.
% in the last year alone. Can the Prime Minister explain why is rent going down in the States while it skyrockets under his leadership here at home?
I can't believe I just fell for that.
I'd like to give the Leader of the Opposition another opportunity to apologize for referring to Ukraine as disparagingly as a faraway foreign land.
That's all he has to say!
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Speaker, the question was about rent in Canada. Rent prices have doubled after 8 years of this Prime Minister. They have tripled in his home city of Montreal, and now, according to the Home Builders of Canada, they expect that construction numbers will actually plummet this year relative to the prior years. They say that this will lead to higher prices, and they say we require, quote, policy changes to reverse it. Will the Prime Minister finally accept a common sense plan to build the homes so Canadians can afford the rent?
He said that Ukraine's faraway land.
Again, I didn't hear an apology to Ukrainians. I encourage him to do that.
Are you kidding me?
At the same time, Mr. Speaker, I can remind this House that we have signed dozens of housing accelerator fund agreements across the country that are leading to the construction of hundreds of thousands of new homes in the coming years. We've eliminated GST off of purpose-built rental apartments. We're moving forward on an interest-free savings account for first-time homebuyers. But again, I encourage the Leader of the Opposition to apologize for referring to Ukraine as some faraway foreign land.
Wow.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
What a little bitch.
It just proves that what I said earlier, he's not interested in Ukraine. When I asked about rental prices, he started spreading disinformation about Ukraine. He couldn't care less about the war effort over there. He only cares about distracting from his failures at home. L'un de ses échecs.
One of his failures is the tripling
immediate switch to French,
in Montreal. And the Builders Association has said that this year will be one of the worst. Why, Mr. Speaker, are rents plummeting in the U.S. when they're skyrocketing here in Canada?
It's insane to see Trudeau just not answer a single question.
Over 150 years has been here to recognize the debates and follow what people have been doing. And if he is suggesting that Hansard, the official record of this House in which he said Ukraine is a faraway foreign land, is somehow misinformation or disinformation, well, he should come right out and say so.
In terms of housing, we continue to invest across the country, including in Quebec. Quebec is doubling the $900 million we put forth for housing to help housing creation.
I can't believe we're seeing this happen, like right in front of us.
Rent, and instead he turned and made false attacks against me. Apparently I'm living rent-free in his head. Here's the reality. Rent is going down in the States while it's coming up in Canada. Housing costs have risen 40% faster than the incomes of Canadians, the worst record in the G7, and the second worst in the OECD. If the Prime Minister's plan were really working, why is it that housing costs have doubled and our housing is becoming less affordable than almost any developed country in the world?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
I think I'm going to leave aside the question of where exactly he's living rent-free and focus on the supports we're giving to Canadians. We are continuing to invest in meaningful ways in partnership with municipalities, with unions and building trades, with provinces across the country to solve this housing crisis that Canadians are feeling so acutely. Whether it's cutting the GST from purpose-built rental, whether it's moving forward with a tax-free savings account for first-time homebuyers, whether it's putting $4 billion in the pockets of municipalities across the country to increase density, to cut red tape, we are taking action on housing.